It was a Thursday afternoon in Washington, the kind where the air hangs heavy, like the city itself is holding its breath. Inside the Carnegie Library's polished marble event hall, chairs filled quickly. This wasn't just another panel of talking heads. This was a bipartisan education summit of big names, national press, and students in the audience with cell phones ready to catch anything worth sharing. Up front sat 6 panelists, nameplates crisp and aligned. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas took her seat in a sharp slate suit, calm and grounded. A few chairs down, First Lady Melania Trump, poised and polished, adjusted the lapel of her ivory jacket. She didn't need to speak to draw attention. Her presence did that on its own. The panel's focus: education access and digital civility. Melania's Be Best initiative had recently pivoted back into the spotlight, emphasizing online kindness. Jasmine, meanwhile, was there to talk about systemic inequality of the kind baked onto the concrete of underfunded schools, biased testing, and ballooning student debt. The energy between them was almost deliberate. The first few questions flowed smoothly. Melania shared a story about the harm of online bullying. Jasmine responded with the story of her own: a 17-year-old girl in rural Texas, taking 3 buses a day to school, no Wi-Fi at home, dreams of law school but no roadmap. Jasmine spoke with quiet weight. She told me she didn't think girls like her ever get to sit in places like this. Jasmine said, and the room went still. Then came the question that tipped it all. First Lady Trump, the moderator asked, how do we make students from underserved communities feel represented in higher education, particularly in law and government? Melania glanced sideways. Then she smiled. I think it's wonderful, she said, her accent soft around each word, that so many are getting opportunities now. Though I sometimes wonder with how easy some degrees seem to come, yet what value they still hold. The words landed like a slow bruise, polite, dismissive, and just sharp enough to cut. Jasmine didn't respond immediately. She just looked at her. The room shifted again as someone coughed. A camera refocused. Melania sipped her water. Her mouth lowered. The comment hung in the air like a quiet insult you're not sure you heard. But Jasmine had heard it. So had half the audience. She didn't flinch. She didn't rush. Instead, she lifted her mic slowly and spoke not to Melania, not even to the crowd, but to the girl from her story. I want to follow up on that, Jasmine said. We've talked about digital behavior, but let's talk about what's behind the screen and what students are up against. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't change tone, but the room leaned in. They're constantly told they don't belong, that their place at the table is charity, not merit, that their dreams don't weigh as much. Melania stared ahead, still and composed, but Jasmine wasn't speaking to her. There's this idea that people like me who didn't go to prep schools, who didn't have connections, saw just float through law school and get handed a robe. But that's not how it goes. She paused. I took the bar twice, worked 2 jobs while studying, missed my cousin's funeral because I couldn't afford time off, and I'm not special. That's the story of every public defender, every black woman attorney who fought to be seen. Then she said it. So no, I don't worry about how easy a degree might look from the outside. I worry about the weight we carry to get it. The silence was immediate, not dramatic, but dense, real. The moderator blinked. Thank you, Congresswoman. A lot to consider. Jasmine didn't smile. She didn't need to. Melania didn't react, not publicly, but her posture had changed, just slightly, rigid, aware. She'd just been checked, and she knew it. The panel moved on. Other speakers spoke, but the room wasn't listening to them anymore. Not really. Everyone was watching Jasmine now, watching Melania, waiting. As the event neared its end, the moderator posed a closing question. What is the greatest barrier to educational equity in America today? The microphone made its way to Jasmine again. She glanced at her notes, then looked up. The greatest barrier, she said slowly, is the belief that some students are worth more than others, that some voices deserve a microphone, a broken bar, and others have to earn one, that someone's value can be questioned based on how they got here, instead of why they're here. She stopped, then, with calm precision, added, I'd earned my law degree to fight for the people this country forgets, not to marry into privilege in silence. It didn't just land, it echoed. A pause, then a gasp, a few claps, then more. Melania didn't move. An aide near the stage leaned forward slightly, sensing what everyone else already knew. Jasmine hadn't insulted her. She'd done something worse. She told the truth and made it unforgettable. Backstage, things moved fast. Journalists were already texting editors. Clips were uploading before the panel even ended. Melania's staff scrambled to control the narrative. She was talking about online degrees in general. A comms aide insisted. Not about the Congresswoman. But it was too late. The moment had gone viral. No edits, no filters, just the raw exchange. Jasmine didn't linger. She gathered her notes, thanked the Department of Education staffer, and left the stage without fanfare. Outside, her aide Miles leaned in and said, "You know that clip's gonna hit 1 million before sundown, right?" Jasmine exhaled. "I didn't say it for the cameras." "I know," Miles replied. "That's why it hit." That night, Jasmine sat on her apartment couch, shoes off, phone buzzing non-stop. Mentions, messages, a voicemail from an older woman in Spokane. "I cried, thank you." She read a few comments, then turned off the phone. Across town, at the Hay Adams Hotel, Melania's comms team debated crisis strategy. "Lean into grace," someone said. "Unity." "Misunderstanding." "No." Claudia, her press secretary, snapped. "We clarify tone. If we acknowledge anything, we give it power." "But it has power," someone else muttered. Melania sat quietly, saying nothing. She wasn't new to critique, but this felt different. The kind of moment that lingers, that reshapes public narrative in subtle but permanent ways. The next morning, Jasmine sat across from a national anchor. "Was that linea about privilege you planned?" The anchor asked. "No," Jasmine said. "I was speaking for the kids I meet every week. Kids who think they don't belong in rooms like that one." "You certainly struck a nerve." "I hope I struck a truth." By Friday afternoon, the clip had crossed 4 million views. Cable news networks looped it endlessly. Reaction panels dissected every syllable. Pundits debated whether it was a calculated attack or a necessary correction. But outside the Beltway, people weren't arguing. They were nodding, forwarding the video to their group chats. High school English teachers played it before class. A law professor in Detroit canceled a lecture just to hold a discussion on it. On TikTok, the audio was being remixed to cut over old footage of black graduation caps flying into the air, over news clips of red-lined neighborhoods, over black and white photos of women in courtrooms where they weren't allowed to speak. One caption reads simply, "This wasn't a mic drop. This was a reckoning." Back in D.C., Jasmine sat in her office surrounded by notes, briefing papers, and a box of sympathy cookies someone mailed from Indiana. Her inbox was full. Her voicemail was full. Her patience was thinner than usual. She hadn't meant to start a firestorm, but she also wasn't backing away from it. "What's our approach?" her chief of staff, Daria, asked as she entered with the printed statement from CNN. Jasmine scanned it. The network wanted her back on air this time for a primetime interview. Sunday night, bigger audience, more heat. "I'm not going on to explain myself," Jasmine said. "You won't have to," Daria replied. "They're framing it as a leadership moment, not a scandal." Jasmine nodded, but her expression was unreadable. Across town, inside the West Wing, Melania Trump sat at the far end of a long walnut table in the residence, her hands folded around a porcelain teacup. Her personal advisor, Claudia Renner, stood a few feet away pacing. "They're calling it the quote of the year," Claudia said. "You can't stay silent forever." Melania didn't look up. "I said nothing wrong." "I agree. But silence now. It looks like guilt." "You didn't name her. You didn't even imply." "They heard what they wanted," Melania said quietly. Claudia sighed. "Be best is about digital civility, right? Let's release a statement. Stay above it. Reference unity. Something graceful." Melania considered this for a long time. Then, almost too softly to hear, she said, "She was ready for me." Claudia blinked. "What?" She didn't shout. She didn't flinch. She knew what to say the moment I opened my mouth. Claudia hesitated. "Do you think someone fed her that line?" Melania finally looked up, eyes cold. "Number." "I think she lived it." That night, The New York Times ran an op-ed titled "Not to Marry into Privilege, When the Truth is Louder Than Applause." It went viral before sunrise. By Saturday morning, the phrase had become a rallying cry. Printed on T-shirts, scribbled on protest signs, graffitied onto plywood outside a shuttered school in Detroit. Meanwhile, Jasmine's team was doing everything they could to keep her grounded. "You don't need to lean into the drama," Daria told her. "Let the media run with it. You just stay honest." But it wasn't that simple. Every time Jasmine tried to pivot to policy, student loan reform, broadband expansion, school lunch equity, interviewers pulled her back to the moment. One host on MSNBC asked, "What would you say to the First Lady now if you were sitting across from her again?" Jasmine smiled. "Tired. The same thing, just slower. So nobody can pretend they didn't hear it the first time." She paused, "And I'd probably remind her that not everyone marries into the room. Some of us fight our way in." The producer mouthed yes off camera. The clip was viral before she left the studio. But something else was stirring. On Sunday evening, as Jasmine walked into a Baltimore town hall with school leaders and parents, a young black girl, maybe 14, maybe younger, slipped through the crowd and tugged gently on her sleeve. Jasmine turned, crouched to eye level. "Hey there." The girl didn't speak. She just handed Jasmine a note and ran back toward her mother. Jasmine unfolded it. "I didn't think I could be a lawyer until I saw you." That was the moment Jasmine realized this wasn't about her anymore. Meanwhile, back at the Hay Adams Hotel, a private strategy session was underway. Not press, not optics, political. Melania had been invited to speak at a women's leadership summit in 3 weeks. The organizers were now getting cold feet. Behind closed doors, Republican donors whispered about optics. Some wanted Melania to issue an apology, as soft, general, but public. She refused. "I don't lose sleep over one sentence," Melania said. But she was losing control of the narrative. On Monday, Jasmine appeared before the House Committee on Education and the Workforce. The timing was coincidence, but the energy wasn't. Every seat in the chamber was taken. C-SPAN aired it live. At one point, when Jasmine calmly outlined funding disparities between public and private schools, a Republican congressman tried to interrupt her. She turned to him, voice steady. "You interrupted me while I was explaining why students in your district don't have working heaters. I suggest you let me finish." The room held its breath. He leaned back, quiet. Later that afternoon, Jasmine's team got word. A top university had invited her to deliver their commencement address. Their law school. The class had voted on it. And the reason wasn't her clapback. It was her story. By the end of the week, Jasmine had gone from one to watch to one to reckon with. A national voice, not just because she delivered a quote that cut through marble, but because it was rooted in truth people recognized. Meanwhile, Melania Trump remained quiet. No tweets, no clarifications, no interviews. But the silence, it was no longer read as grace, it was read as retreat. And in a city built on narrative, that was its own kind of surrender.